hurdle, then it becomes a big thing, and the forums are lit up, instead of it should really be the norm, and we should be focusing, regardless of gender, on the character. So.
To quickly bring up though on the trip in Enslaved, Prince of Persia, I think where the prince had Elika as his sort of assistance character. I wonder if like the Escapist readers had any issue with that versus
the issue with that they had. You can't die. That was it. Seriously, they actually didn't focus on the relationship at all. It was the game was too easy because you never really died.
But they obviously didn't care that with the woman in the sort of assistance role, but flipped around for Enslaved, it became an issue.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to, if we have time to bring up the whole,
and then we'll
just, there is this great video, actually cut it on the Escapist, that sort of brings up that, gender doesn't necessarily define what makes a great character. So we don't want to say that, females are the only ones who, great characters can't just be, female characters. Like stereotypes inherent in female traits versus societal constructions, and that we're just trying to, show that there can be great female characters that don't fit into these stereotypes, giant boobs, blah, blah, blah. And I think Susan mentioned earlier too that we'd love to see a game that showed off more motherhood in a game, sort of like dealing with Ripley and all that stuff. So.
Yeah. You've not talking about. Oh, there we go. Hey, tech fail. Oh, thank you. Okay. Obviously we could this all day long, but I guess we should get on some of these questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to alternate. We're going to go from side to side. If that's okay with you guys. Actually, even if it isn't okay with you guys, that's okay. Let's start with this side because I see.
I was wondering what your thoughts were on the fact that in the Mass Effect universe, even the aliens, like the Quarians, they have boobs for no reason.
Hey, they might need to nurse. You don't know that. I mean, that's the purpose of breasts, right? Is that you're supposed to be able to nurse babies, yes?
For mammals.
Is she a mammal? I think she breathes air.
Okay, no, she doesn't.
And Vere's one of the young has hair.
And has warm blood.
Yeah. Here's my thing. I am willing to give game developers a bit of a break. I am not going to make you, in a game like Mass Effect, which already has so many variables going on, I am not going to make you try and animate some kind of tentacle squid monster just so that it's an alien without boobs, I think they definitely played with sexuality, with some of the relationships you could have, and I think that's awesome. I think we have to meet them halfway. If they're going to, dear God, let us play as either a male or a female character, although they still put the man on the box, then I think we gotta cut them a little slack. That's my take on it. Your mileage major.
I realize that, we've gone a long way since when the game industry started, from Princess Peach and Princess Zelda being the helpless crybabies that they were, to now we have the enslavement and stuff like that. What's your guys' view on, I don't know how touchy World of Warcraft is, but Sylvanas is a strong female character with a strong base background and a, if you don't get out of my way, you will die attitude. And she's not that nurturing, but she has built a metropolis from underneath, the Scourge and the Lich King and the Horde, and I mean, with what's going on right now with her revamp that she had as a character, molded. She was no longer a night elf, based, character. Now she's got the slightly blood elf, but not really, but she looks much more of a stronger character, a little more scantily clad, but she looks more badass. What's your view?
Sounds like you had it for us.
I didn't know. I was like, I don't know how touchy World of Warcraft was, but I think her as a character is amazing.
I don't play WoW, so that I personally cannot.
We have someone on Gaming Angels that covers WoW a lot, and she loves it, and she plays with a lot. There's a ton of women that play it. Obviously, the characters are well written. I get a little concerned when it think that needs to be worked on. I think their characters are great, but they just make great characters.
Yeah, because World of Warcraft itself, on the women's side of it, we get a really, really bad rep. Like, no offense, but you play a blood out female on most servers, and you're instantly thought of, you're either a guy and you're gay, or you're a chick and you're really slutty.
There are no girls on the internet, I'm sorry.
Alright, hi, I know we already talked about Lara Croft, but I just wanted to ask you ladies about your opinion on the reboot of her character. Not just on her physical appearance and proportions and her face and her more realistic appearance, but also on her story and background and her character, and also on the choice of eliminating the real life model. Like the whole thing is rebooted, like every aspect of that franchise is being completely redone. So I was wondering if you ladies think that's a step in the right direction for Lara Croft and Tomb Raider as a whole, or perhaps maybe a step in the right direction for female characters and overall.
I think the main issue that I can't speak for all this, but for Lara Croft has been sort of the gameplay aspects, obviously, as of late, which is, I think, the main reason they're doing the reboot. But I mean, of course, but to change the character up, it'll be interesting to see where they take it with her and hopefully broaden her appeal to female players that may have been sort of turned off by her just based on her physical appearance lately. So what we hope she's a strong character. She has a shirt, and and she's proportionate and interesting as she has been in certain games.
Okay, alright.
I just want the game to be good, brother. Honestly.
I do too.
That's it.
That's what's up.
If it takes them a complete overhaul to sort of make people forget that the franchise sucked for so long, and they give us a great game on top of it, awesome. I am down.
Although,
If-
go ahead.
Yeah, no, please.
I was just gonna say, I think it's funny that they're doing a reboot and saying it's to broaden the appeal to women instead of a reboot because our game has sucked.
So, our game sucks doesn't make awesome PR copy.
Alright, well, thank you.
The panel seemed to focus on female antagonists and sidekicks. I want to know, what do you think of the quality of female villains and how that kind of plays into the image of the female character?
My model for female villains is Maleficent. If you can. Female villains, I mean, they're usually villains. In all of our fairy tales, usually the villain is a female because it's just, you just think that all women are evil all the time because your mother probably screamed at you.
We are.
So, we see a lot of female villains. I mean, the boss is a villain, for example. I mean, yes, she was your mother, your mentor, blah, 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 blah. You still gotta kill the bitch at the end of the game. That's not gonna happen. And, Sniper, a lot of villains in the Metal Gear Solid canon are all women, and then actually the new Uncharted game, the main antagonist is a woman, Helen Mirren woman. She's amazing. She's not just a woman, she's an old woman, and she'll stab you with character over 30. I am so psyched. With women and villains to do female villains because it's so old to us, it's old hat. It's always the old witch in the cottage. It's always like the evil stepmother gonna poison you. Like, it's just easy for game developers to conceptualize because they grew up with stories about evil women. Not hard at all.
Thanks.
Hi. Actually, well, first of all, Diane Wynne Jones is the writer of Castles in the Sky, which is what was the bassist for Miyazaki's remake for House Castle, and she actually makes the character a lot better than he did in the movie. He made her a bit stronger, like she has more feelings in the story, but it's definitely worth a check out. And then I wanted to know your opinion on the whole Samus Aran thing.
She's stomach.
Samus from the trailer. Yeah.
Dead to me.
Because I know there was the article written where there was only two that gave a really bad review.
Abby from G4.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Which there is a panel about there.
Yeah, we made a joke about this in an episode of ENN, and is basically like the gameplay, which I did not play. My friend Jared, who loves Metroid and loves Samus as a character as well, was really disappointed by the game, but he loved the gameplay. And so what he described it best, and we made a joke out of this, was this is a really decent game, marred by the impenetrably stupid decision to take a good character and to give her whining daddy issues for no reason.
Yeah. And I was so let down by her character as they evolved throughout the games. Like, I liked Pursuit Samus, but the original Samus, you didn't even know she was a girl. She was just an awesome character, well written. She was just being a badass in the universe. And then they were like, and now we're gonna put a skin tight suit on her and make her blonde.
Oh,
and
Japan.
she's just gonna be an American, just chilling. So. But yeah, I just wanted to see how you guys felt.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm not going to sit here and say Halo has the best writing, but in Halo 1, Cortana was a character that she definitely was, the Navi aspect, and she's strong, she's confident, she's made from Dr. Halsey. I never thought of her as a sexual being. And then in Halo 2, her appearance just got so hot. What do you think of that? I never felt the need for her to be so attractive, but then there she was. It's all just pixels, she's a hologram. But what do you think of them? I don't know why Bungie just, originally they said the concept for her character was to be an Egyptian like Cleopatra, that she was angular and strong, and then suddenly,
What? I mean, the Halo 2 came out on a brand new console, they were trying to launch, maybe they just felt like they needed the sexy.
So you guys, I guess my question is, did you guys feel that at all, that they had just changed Cortana a little bit from...
No, they made her hot.
Yeah,
that was intentional. That's not an accident. Hot is not bad. Here's the thing. To go back to the fighting games thing really, really quickly. Fighting games, the characters per se don't really exist. You're not getting into, you don't play a fighting game because of the incredibly deep narrative. You play it because it's fun to kick the ass of your friends, right? So the mechanics of a fighting game are what is really important. So the skins of the characters could look like anything. It could be fighting monkeys, and as long as the collision detection and the combos were great, you could still play it. So it's kind of if it can look like anything, why not make it hot? That's kind of how I feel about Cortana in that situation. They've already established that what the character is like. This is the relationship she has with the sexless, Master Chief, who's all in armor, right? So, is it going to really hurt her to make her hot? No. It's not going to take away any of her authority or any of her credibility, so why not?
I think making a character sexier is different than making a character sluttier, like the slutification of some characters that we've seen. So I personally don't think Cortana is an example of that, but obviously we've talked about some characters that became way sluttier.
I had a problem with Girl Shepherd in Mass Effect 2 becoming slut. Yeah, my Girl Shepherd became slut. I was very sad. I was trying to get her to do it.
Girl Shepherd became
slut. Who did you sleep with? Because I slept with Garrus, and that just shit. Dude, the guy's comment on mine was, let's relieve some tension. If you're down with that, yeah, you go home.
So you kind of touched on this before, but how much do you feel that it's not necessarily that game developers don't know how to write women, but they don't know how to write characters at all? Because I know especially for minority characters also, they just rely on stereotypes because they think players can't read subtlety.
Yeah.
And while there is kind of, there is kind of like a disparaging amount of male characters versus female characters. How much do you think it is just we don't trust the players to read subtlety, period? And that's why they rely on the female stereotypes that, you've kind of been bashing on today.
We are a medium that deals in stereotypes. That leads to a lot of hurt feelings across the board. It's not just a gender thing, it's a race thing, it's a culture thing, it's a religion thing. Does that make it okay all of the time? No, I want something besides Diet Coke to drink sometimes.
No, I'm saying the problem. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm saying developers need to learn how to deal with subtlety, period.
Yes.
And that will also help this problem.
Yes. No, characterization across the board needs to be better. That's it.
I want to see a game with realistic female characters with realistic minority characters, and realistic gay characters that are not portrayed as stereotypes.
But I think part of that problem too is that there needs to be more diversity in game development. You know, I mean, there's obviously a lot more different kinds of people playing games. You can look at around the room and see the different kind of people that are playing games, or at PAX. So, but game development community is still largely white male, and especially the ones you know, who've been in it for years, making the top creative decisions. And I think that, you know, if more people sort of break into the industry, talk about it like we're doing now, that, you know, hopefully these ideas will change about these stereotypes.
And hopefully it's like with movies. Like, remember way back in the olden days of movies, you only had white English people in movies, or people with Scottish accents, and now you have movies with good characters of all races and religions and sexual orientations, and I think it just needs to get to a point where it can do that.
Thank you.
Hi. So we've already talked a little bit about Mass Effect 2 in the world, in, you know, the over-sexuality of, you know, some decisions. But how do you feel about games like that, where you can choose a male or a female character, but they're already... Yeah, great.
Tracey, back that ass up.
You can choose either a male or female character, but they're an already established personality, and you can kind of nudge their decisions one way or another, but they're kind of already a character, but
I think
it can go either way.
I'm into it.
I like it.
Any chance I get to play as a chick, praise Jesus. And she can get pregnant? Oh yes. Oh my God, yes.
I should probably quickly, regarding this shot, I actually confronted BioWare about, you know, Miranda and shots like this. You clearly could not get it. It's a dialogue tree and you're stuck on this shot. And I was like, what sort of cinematic reason do we have for this shot? And they didn't have a good answer, you know, outside from the PR.
Their answer is because that's a damn fine ass.
And while I laud their, ass-making abilities in video games, they just couldn't find a good reason. And I think, while I love Mass Effect, some of my favorite, BioWare makes some of my favorite games, Mass Effect's some of my favorite games. It's still, things like this remind me that games are still made for the sort of male perspective. I got to play a female shepherd, but I couldn't sleep with Tally, who was I was a female shepherd, I couldn't sleep with Tally, my favorite character. I had to pick a male, even an alien character like Garrus. So, that's the reason.
My question kind of leads off of that. We talked about appearance and sort of how women can be sexy. Like a woman being sexy in a game doesn't have to be a bad thing. But I was sort of surprised that we didn't really talk about how a lot of times in games those women are used as sort of objects and are objectified, and that it's not. Is it okay for women to be not stereotypically sexy? Like all of these characters that we've talked about have been attractive, even if they're not, bosomed. They are at least conventionally attractive, and I was just wondering what you thought we sort of have to do to get, normal.
We need Hollywood ugly for games?
I mean, we have Hollywood ugly. We don't have normal. Guys are allowed to be sort of, scarred up or generic looking or sort of, overweight or, whoever. But women still have to be.
Well, what about Halo Reach Cat? Is that her name? Do you find her attractive? Because I think she's damn ugly.
So I just wanted to ask you what you thought about what we have to do as what we can do to sort of push through that's
I think even in games, I think aside from games where you can sort of decide how your protagonist looks, when you think about protagonists of big sort of AAA games, even if they're male, even if they're scarred up and burly, they're still muscular. Nathan Drake is still a very handsome man. I think he's hot. Yeah, game characters, male or female, are designed to be attractive. And I don't think we're ever going to get away from somebody saying, no, they have to be at least good looking. But I do think that women, Like, I think that men are designed to be attractive and to be handsome, but I think women are definitely more designed to be objectified, and I think that's a huge problem. But I think they don't make games that have people in them that you would actually meet, to be honest with you.
Well, I think it's a problem endemic to entertainment, period, in the end. I mean, you don't, when there is a quirky attractiveness on TV or in movies, they make a big deal out of the fact that it's quirky attractiveness. It is very much a societal thing that attractive means this set of features. If you also happen to find something outside that set of features attractive, awesome, way, cool, bonus, that's real life. So it'll be a long time before I think that happens, and it would have to happen across the board in entertainment, advertising, American culture. They're still trying to sell something.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi. There's you guys were talking about like female characters that are the most real, like in video games. Alex Vance from Half-Life, I think, is quite possibly one of the best examples of a real like character. She's one of the most even-tempered, most versatile people, or I should say characters, in a video game. And I think that's the reason that so many like men like strike a chord with her, is because of how real she is. How even though she may not be the definition of hot but she's definitely the most real. Do you think that being real can overlap like any type of character, whether they're in anything? Do you think that they can overlap?
Tracey, because I know you're a
Do I think being real can overtake the stereotypes that we see now, the sort of sexualized characters? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Do you think because she's the most real character I can think of as far as female characters, do you think that would make her better, or do you think that she's nothing special?
I mean, I personally think that makes her better, but that's up to the player. I'm assuming. But if I think if more people are vocal about wanting these type of characters, then hopefully game developers will listen and create more of these characters. But I guess right now it seems that again I think this is a problem that's inherent in game development with mostly white male young developers. And if there are more women wanting to create or more people in general with open minds wanting to create these kinds of characters, then I think we'll see more of them. But do I think it's better? I think ask people who like Half-Life and see how they relate to Alex, and I think that you'll find your answer there.
You know what bugs me about Alex though? Her name's Alex.
Yeah.
It's Alex.
Give you this.
It's Alex with a Y though.
Don't care. Why is it female? Stephanie.
Makes it hurt.
Brenda. Charlotte. Trisha. No, I don't know Trisha. Lucy.
By the way, every female in Final Fantasy 13 can go to hell.
I don't know if you guys are aware of the perception study that's been getting a lot of talk at like TED and stuff like that, where they found that if you hand a group of people a dossier and the dossier has a female name on it, success is negatively correlated with likability. And if they hand you one with a male name on it, it's positively correlated with likability. Right. Do you think that might have some relation to how some super strong female characters in games get a huge backlash?
Well, they have like these like Samus. That's not like a female name necessarily. So the name correlation, I don't know if that holds up, especially in games where you get to edit your character's name. So.
Well, no, I was talking about in general, because it's been shown that people react less positively to, like, a lot of people, when they talk about their favorite characters, their side characters or characters who are less successful in their own personal quests, rather than, like you were talking about earlier, the Enslaved, where that girl is willing to do whatever she can to get what she wants. She's hated, whereas a character who helps Gordon Freeman is the most beloved character ever.
It probably has something to do with it. I mean, this is all stuff that, like, we're not psychologists up here, so can't go too deeply into it, but it does sound... ladies. Yeah. It does sound like a reasonable conclusion.
Thanks anyway.
Hi, I wanted wanted to touch base on a game that you didn't mention, which it's not a very well-known game anyways. It's called Haunting Ground.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I wanted to know what you thought of Fiona, because I have mixed feelings. She's very vulnerable, and she has that, Capcom obviously did the fanboy thing with her, the cutscene in the beginning itself. But she does try really hard to get away from her problems in the game.
Yeah.
So I have mixed feelings about her. I was wondering what you guys thought.
I'm kind of where you are on that. It's headed in the right direction, but still kept in that very safe, this is a, let's start making her a little more powerful and self-empowered, but not so much that we don't still feel like she's a very Capcom girl.
That's how I felt about Alicia in Valkyria Chronicles, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, almost identical.
Yeah, because I felt every time that her character development got stronger, they put her in a weaker situation where she, she had to hide. She had to use the dog to help her.
That may be a cultural thing, honestly. That may be reflective of Japanese culture's view of women and female empowerment. I can't speak to that personally, but that may factor into it. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you.
So my more mature questions were already asked, so I just want to go straight to the boobs. I recently started playing a new MMO that was released called Rift, and the boobs in it have generated a lot of controversy because the women in the game tend to be not completely flat-chested, but not the heavingness that we see in the vast majority of video games, and the community, the forums have been alight with comments and people very upset about it. It's something that I personally really appreciate about the game. But I just wanted to discuss why we see such a one template model for body type in female characters. And that's not 100% universal, but it's quite common.
Good question. I think it's because reality isn't a priority in these games, especially when you're trying to make a character model that works for everybody because you have millions of players. Like the last thing they really want to think about is like, how much thought do we have to put into this character model? Not a lot? Okay, big and small, that's all you get. So, DC Universe Online, like your big character, like, that's not very big, especially for a girl. It just means big tits. It doesn't mean like big, it just means big breasts. But that's just a design flaw, I think, because it's easier for them to program. That's just why when The Sims 3 came out, I was thrilled because the fat Sims actually looked fat. Yes! I'm so happy about that. So, I feel bad for MMOs because they just don't have the bandwidth for that. Like, what goes into developing an MMO does not allow time for them to think super hard about body types and how to make it diverse. It's like, elf, sprite, knight, blood elf, whatever, sexy, let's go, just get it out the door. Oh my god, publish.
Thank you. My question kind of got poked at a little bit earlier with a couple people, but I kind of wanted to come back around to the importance of being able to play male or female characters like in Mass Effect or Dragon Age, and correlating to that, being able to play a female character who can sleep with a female character in game.
You can sleep with
Kelly.
It's a consolation prize.
I mean, you can't sleep with all of them because I want to sleep with Morgan in Dragon Age, but I can't. So at least I can sleep with a female character as a female character, and I know I really appreciated that. So I don't know if any more thoughts on that.
For reasons I don't know, but perhaps need to examine more, I always pursue the lesbian love option. My husband is fine with that. Me personally, just speaking to BioWare games, I would love it if everyone in your party was a romance option. Just because you've got this diverse assortment of characters, and that way, if you could pursue a romance with all of them, then that would allow you the best role-playing opportunities, because it's, do I go with, Jack the Psycho with the, let's just talk about her outfit for a moment. What? Anyway, now she was a troubled youth. Speaking of a non-traditional sexy character, by the way, I thought Jack was really, really sexy. I just wish he had a shirt on. So me personally, that's what I would like. I would really love that, just because I think that would add to role playing a great deal.
And when I asked BioWare about, pursuing female relationships, even if you were a female shepherd, their response was because they had a certain story arc they wanted to keep in line and blah, blah, blah. And I'm assuming that it was just a decision made early on and that it would be too many additional sexy or cutscenes, I guess, to make. So, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of development and storyline decisions in that, but hopefully if we keep asking for it, we'll get it.
Do you think that can be an agent of social change where hey, you can sleep with these characters in the game and it's okay?
They still gotta sell their games.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm gonna push it so far. Thank you.
Hi, I'm pretty sure that everyone in this room is aware that every 6 months there's a new study about how images in pop culture affect young women and their body images. It seems to me that some of the worst offenders of presenting unrealistic bodies as, comic books and video games, and so far, they've received the least attention in these studies. Do you think that they've received a pass so far because we still think that video games are, male only, or do you think that it simply just hasn't occurred to them that, even if something is animated, it doesn't mean that it's not something that we see all the time?
I think they get a pass still because the industry's still very young, and the majority of people who aren't gamers just think it's for men or it's for boys to play, so they don't really pay attention to it. I think with more diversity in the game industry,
I also think it's worth mentioning that a lot of games that have the super sexy female images that would cause controversy are rated M for mature, or they would not be exposed to young girls. Whereas like TV and big posters for like Christian Dior clothing are like everywhere, and little girls see that every day and they're bombarded by that. They're not really bombarded by games because games require you to go out and play them, and comic books require you to go out and buy them. So the barrier to entry is a little higher.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I had a couple of points. One of them was that the idea that there is no unmarked woman, which is an essay written by, I don't remember anymore. But in it, she pretty much said that when you look at a woman, you critique her based on how she looks, and that when you look at men are almost the default. That when in video games, in even in fiction, and in other forms of fiction, written fiction, male characters are the default. That's what to expect. So part of the sexualization, or I guess it's not really a word, but over-sexualization of women. Does that come from the idea that immediately when you see a female character, she's not a character first, she's a female character first, she's a woman or a girl first, and then a character after that, that they address the boobs before they address, who she is? And do you think that's something that is true, and do you think that's something that you can escape from?
That is a very complicated my short, foul language answer? Women are judged by how fuckable they are. Men are judged by what they can achieve. That is how our current society operates. Obviously, not everyone is like that. I'm not saying, but this is, when you look to counter something, this is often what happens. Do I think that's necessarily what's happening with video games? I don't know, honestly. I don't think it's necessarily reached that level because they're also just not giving us fully realized enough characters, period, end. Right. So I don't know that it's that nuanced. No, but I do definitely think at this time, the default reaction first to a developer dealing with a female character is how hot is she? Yeah. I do. I don't know what the other ladies think.
No, concur for sure, yeah.
And then the other point, really quickly, is that she hasn't come up at all. Is Zelda, in that she is a completely powerless princess. I still believe in my heart of hearts, because she will always be kidnapped. She will always need saving. It doesn't matter. She's 9 times out of 10. She has done some badass things, but 9 times out of 10, she's going to need to be rescued. And even when they give her a weapon, she's not going to use it. Do you But I feel she's been disguised as becoming.
You notice how she's more powerful when she's cross-dressing?
Yes, exactly. She gains power, but she loses her boobs.
Just put that out there. Zelda, like many Japanese characters from old classic games was not fully realized. I mean, Samus Aran was kind of the first experiment in let's take an old character that was flat and try to give it more character, and that didn't go so well. So I really don't see Zelda getting her own Super Princess Peach style game anytime soon, regrettably. But, you know, Zelda has good qualities, and so with her, I tend to try to focus on the good. She's selfless. I mean, she gave herself up for Midna, if you play Twilight Princess. She takes care of her friends. If you watch that thing in Brawl's story mode about how she's going to whoop on Star Fox because he shot at Peach, what the fuck? I'll knock you out! That's the kind of friend you want to have in your corner, even if she is always getting kidnapped.
This may be me just reading way too much into her, but I feel like she allows herself to do that to allow Link to have a destiny. Seriously. She's like Jesus. That is so tweetable. Okay. Last question.
How do you guys feel about characters who kind of transcend gender binaries? I know it's not the main character, but someone like Shale from Castle Age.
I love the spec in Pixel Junkie. The specs, they don't have gender, they're awesome.
Well, like, do you guys think the game industry needs more characters like that who kind of transcend these gender binaries?
I think we need to start with good, realistic characters first, based that we can relate to. You know, let's have good. Yeah, we're talking about female characters. Let's have good male characters too, please. Please, for the love of God. Let's have good female characters. Let's have good minority characters. Let's have good gay characters. Then we can work with the gender neutral ones.
Small victories.
I think they are kicking us the hell out. So thank you all very, very much.